Okay, so let's talk about Rolex. We're going to pull back the curtain and really deconstruct the Rolex formula. How this brand went from being just a simple, rugged tool to one of the most powerful symbols of success on the entire planet.
I mean, seriously, think about it for a second. You see it on James Bond in the movies, on presidents in the White House. A Rolex is this universal sign that you've made it. It is so much more than a timepiece. It's a statement. But how in the world did they pull that off? What's the actual blueprint for that kind of success?
Well, to really get Rolex, you have to rewind the clock. Back to a time when wristwatches, they weren't the tough, everyday tools we have now. No way. They were delicate, almost fragile accessories that could be defeated by a little bit of dust or, heaven forbid, a splash of water. Bottom line, they were just not reliable.
And this right here is where the Rolex genius really begins. The first key to their success had nothing to do with luxury or status. It was all about foundational, totally game-changing engineering that tackled the biggest weaknesses of every single watch that came before.
So you've got two completely different pictures here. On one side, you have the typical watches from the early 1900s. They were basically just pocket watches with a strap. And on the other side, you've got the vision of the founder, Hans Wilsdorf. He wanted a watch that was tough enough for a truly active life, a watch you could actually depend on. See, he wasn't trying to make a better piece of jewelry, he was trying to build a better tool.
And this timeline, it just shows this relentless focus on practical, useful innovation. In 1926, boom, the oyster case seals the watch from water and dust. 5 years later, the perpetual rotor comes along, which meant you never had to wind it again. And by 45, the Datejust added another super useful feature. Every single step here wasn't about adding bling. It was about making the watch more reliable and more useful for the person wearing it.
So they built a far superior tool, no question. But a great product is only half the battle. To become a legend, you've got to sell a story. And that required a total masterstroke of marketing.
This was the big question for Hans Wilsdorf. I mean, he could run ads all day long saying his watch was waterproof, but back then, talk was cheap. Everybody was making big claims. He didn't need to tell people, he needed to show them.
And this is how he did it. It was brilliant. In 1927, a swimmer named Mercedes Gleitz was going to try to cross the English Channel. Wilsdorf gave her a Rolex Oyster to wear. After 10 grueling hours in that icy, salty water, she emerged, and the watch, it was still ticking, perfectly. Wilsdorf didn't waste a second. He took out a full front-page ad in the Daily Mail, celebrating not just the incredible swimmer, but the watch that survived the whole ordeal right there with.
You have to understand how revolutionary this was. Rolex wasn't just claiming it was tough, they were giving the world undeniable public proof. And all of a sudden, the marketing wasn't about technical specs, it was about human achievement. That single event built this incredible foundation of trust and forever tied the Rolex brand to adventure and endurance.
Okay, so the product's reputation is rock solid. It's proven to be tough as nails. Now comes the third and final transformation. Mastering the psychology of desire to go from being an incredible tool to a true luxury icon.
And this is where we get to the modern Rolex strategy. See, most companies, their goal is to sell as many products as they possibly can. Rolex, they do the exact opposite. They deliberately control production to make sure demand is always higher than supply. This isn't just about making the watches hard to get, it's a calculated move that turns them into appreciating assets.
And that control over supply and demand, that is precisely how a super functional tool, born from a need for reliability, became one of the most famous status symbols in the entire world. The value isn't just in what it does anymore, but in how rare it is and the powerful message it sends.
So, let's bring all these pieces together. Let's lay out the core formula that built, and let's be honest, continues to sustain the absolute legend that is Rolex. When you boil it all down, the Rolex formula is actually pretty simple, but it is incredibly powerful. First, you build a genuinely superior product that actually solves a real problem. Then, you tell a powerful, unforgettable story to prove it. And finally, you protect that brand with your life by creating an aura of exclusivity. It's product, proof, and prestige.
That combination of world-class engineering, absolute marketing genius, and incredibly disciplined brand management, that's what lifts Rolex into another stratosphere. It's not any one of those things, it's the perfect execution of all three together that created a brand that somehow feels both essential and completely unattainable at the very same time.
Now, this formula, of course, isn't just for watches. So as you look around at the brands that are shaping our world today, you got to ask yourself, who's following this playbook? Who is combining a truly superior product with an unforgettable story and the art of desire?
Because that company, well, that company might just be the next Rolex.